What's going on, YouTube? Today I'm here to show you how to do a proper vehicle inspection. Now, the customer took this to the dealer and they quoted him over $4,000 worth of work, and he wants a second opinion. And a lot of times the dealerships tell you a lot of things you can push off a little longer. So it's going to be basic. You know, this is a Nissan Murano, but for the most part this is going to apply to most vehicles with the same systems like belts, hoses, things like that. So at any rate, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe so I can continue to make videos like this to make your life easier. Let's get started. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to start from the top and work your way to the bottom. Go flashlight. You want to check your belts for any cracking, any separating. And that one down there does have a little bit of separating, and I notice it's squeaking a little bit as well whenever I start it up. So probably recommend a tensioner or two, because a weak tensioner, when the spring starts getting weak, will cause the belt to slip. So it's a good idea to recommend a tensioner or two whenever you do the belt. Check your motor mounts. This one's busted. This is considered a torque strut mount, a dog bone. Definitely needs that. Look around all your hoses and fittings. This hose right here, this coolant down there, I can see that it's seeping. See, up right there. So it probably needs hoses or maybe clamps. These spring style clamps sometimes don't fit tight enough, so sometimes the hoses will seep. So we might just recommend hoses anyways, because they're original. It's got 120,000 miles on it. So I'm pretty sure it's just the hoses. I think the radiator's okay. Look all around your valve covers for oil leaks, because these Nissans are very common for that. Any car that has higher miles are common for oil leaks. I'm not really seeing too much going on, which is amazing, because these Nissans usually are pouring oil from every seal at 100,000 miles. But who knows, they might have been done before. Alright, pop your little air filter clips. Pull up your air filter. That's clean. Now, I would show you how to check the cabin filter on this one, but you got to pull the whole glove box assembly to do this one. It's not an easy one. So on something like this, you just want to recommend it by mileage. And you want to test your battery. Go ahead and turn that off. If you have a battery tester. If not, you can stop by any local parts store and they'll be glad to test it for you. Trust me, they want to sell you a battery, but make sure you get a printout so they're not trying to take your money. Now, if you're having starting issues like slow to start and stuff like that, that's probably a good indicator you need a battery. So I'm going to go ahead and test this battery. Positive to red, negative to black. Now, I can't see the cold cranking amps in this battery, so general rule of thumb, if you can't see the cold cranking amps, we're going to do 550. Alright. Just set it there. Yeah. Alright. Now that we got the temperature established, hit enter. Now your battery tester might be different from this one, so if you have a battery tester, but like I said, you can take it to any parts store and they'll test it for you for free. So it's testing good at 514 out of 550. Even if it was a little lower that I'm giving the rating for, if it had a bad cell, this tester would show that. So the battery's fine. Check the fluids. Brake fluids a little low. That could mean it needs brake pads. Power steering fluid susceptible. It's in between max and minimum. Now, next thing we're going to do is check all the lights. Turn your key on. On some cars you got to turn your key on. Check your wiper blades. They're streaking, so this needs wiper blades. Turn those off. When they make a noise like that and they're not getting all the water off the window, then the wiper blades are worn out. They're dry rotted. Turn your headlights on. I can see them both on my toolbox. Brights. Left blinker, I can see it blinking on my toolbox. Right blinker, I can see it blinking on my toolbox. left blinker. Now if you have an assistant, that would be great, because you wouldn't have to get out of the car. But nobody's here yet but me, so I'm the early bird. Early bird gets the worm. Right blinker's working, running lights are working, tag lights both are working. Let's check the brake lights. And I'll show you how to do that. I got brake pedal depressor, but you can use a long extension too. But like I said, if you have an assistant, that would be even better. Let's go ahead and put it in reverse too to see if the reverse lights are working as well. Turn that off. Reverse lights, all brake lights are working. Dome lights are working. AC's blowing cold. I've already checked that on my test drive. You also want to take a test drive to make sure you don't feel any vibration, any noises from like bearings or anything like that. So take that off. Go ahead and put it back in neutral. Turn the key off so we don't kill the battery. Go ahead and get that out of the car. Turn your headlights off. Alright, now that we've established the top, we're going to take it up and check underneath. Alright, take it about chest high, depending how tall you are. Let's see here. You want to shake down the front end, up and down, side to side, no play. Same with the back. Up and down, side to side, checking for loose or worn bearings or suspension components. Everything feels tight, no tire rod play, no ball joint play. That's good. Now we're going to pop these wheels off and check these brakes. It's a 21mm on Nissan. Because that brake fluid was sitting below the max line, I suspect it needs brakes. Because as your brakes wear, the pistons on the calipers push further out, causing the brake fluid level to drop, unless you have a leak somewhere, which in that case, that wouldn't be good, because you'd have a soft pedal. Alright, these front brake pads are roughly at probably about 3 or 4 millimeters. Now they actually make a tool you can check them with, but I've been doing this long enough to where I can just visually see. I had a tool, but I don't know where it's at right now. But I mean, general rule of thumb, you want to replace the brake pads when they're around 3 millimeters. These are probably around 3 or 4, so I'm going to suggest them. He can get by a little longer if he has to. Make sure we check the other side for uneven wear. Inner and outer pad. Yeah, that looks fine. So I'm going to suggest him, but like I said, he can probably go a little longer. I know the back are fine. I'm not even going to pull it back if he just had those done. Alright, control arm bushings, notice they're cracking and tearing. So that's a common problem on Nissans as well. It's pretty common on most cars with higher miles, but Nissans are notorious for that. So I'm going to suggest both lower control arms. Look at his axle boot. It's starting to leak grease. It's been slinging it all over the frame rail. So I'm going to suggest that axle, but if need be, he can get by a little longer with that too, because the boot's not torn, it's just leaking grease from the clamp. This one looks fine. That control arm's the same. All the bushings look fine. Look, check your bushings on your tire rods. They're cracking a little bit, but they're not busted yet, and there's no play in them. Axle seals are leaking a little bit, seeping. That's pretty normal too with age, so I'm going to suggest axle seals as well. Just a suggestion, but I don't think that's enough fluid to where it's ran low. Let's see if this axle seal's leaking. I didn't even... Well, we'll check that when we take it in the air. Check your struts for leaks. They're not leaking, but they're original. Struts don't have to be leaking to be worn. Future reference. Generally, if you have 100,000 miles or more, it's a good recommendation to do struts. Check your rear shocks. Those are seeping a little bit. I can see the oil buildup on them, and they're original as well. A little bit over here too. So I'm sure those are probably pretty worn out. Again, a suggestion, check your tires. These tires look pretty new. We did this guy's tires not long ago, but you still have a 30 seconds gauge. So we're looking at about 30 seconds. I'm not even going to check all of them because they all look about even. As long as no excessive wear, around 30 seconds is when you start replacing tires. So we've established so far that we need lower control arms, axle seals. Yeah, definitely that axle seal is leaking too, so we'll recommend that axle seal as well when we do this axle. And like I said, that axle's fine, so we can just recommend replacing that seal and then putting that axle back in. But I'm going to recommend replacing that axle because it's leaking grease and it's got to come out anyways to do that axle seal. So look all around your pan. That's your trans pan for leaks. It's pretty dry. Oil pan, pretty dry. Now that's your oil filter housing adapter. That oil is coming from the seal behind that. That's pretty common on Nissans as well, so I'm going to recommend that seal. Pretty easy to do. And I would say the rack and pinion's leaking, but I'm pretty sure that's fluid from the axle slinging back there a little bit. So I'll probably replace all that if he decides to do the work and clean it up real good and have him come back in a couple thousand miles to check to see if any leaks have came back. Check all your motor mounts for cracking. These seem to be okay except for that top torque strut, but if he doesn't replace that torque strut eventually, it's going to cause more stress on these other mounts and eventually bust those, and those are expensive. That torque strut doesn't cost very much. Anyways, I'm pretty sure I covered all the bases on this vehicle inspection. So I hope y'all like this video. Please check like and please subscribe. Y'all have a good day. Peace out, YouTube.